Hi, I'm Ari, I'm the Oak Witch, and these are 10 witchy things I couldn't live without. So I thought I'd have a little bit more fun in today's video, considering I've been a bit ranty recently. So I thought I'd make this light-hearted video explaining the tools in my craft which are essential to me. And this is kind of a rip-off of those GQ videos, if anyone's ever seen those. But I thought I'd make it witchy edition. Of course, I still want it to be educational, so I'm going to be going through the tools I use in my practice, why I use them, and why they're essential. I'm not anticipating this to be a trend, but if you did want to make the same video, tag me, because I'd love to see what witchy tools are essential to you. It'd be so fun to see what you guys, or maybe just leave a comment below. It'd be really cool to see what is your essential witchy things. Yeah, anyway, let's get into the video. So my first witchy item that I couldn't live without is my mortar and pestle. This was given to me by my mum. She passed it down to me. This was her old one. And yeah, it does the job. It's really great. I'm very fortunate. How I use it in my craft is you'd use a mortar and pestle for grinding up herbs, plant material, or just any natural material. You break it down with the pestle and you grind it up. People use it a lot when you're making incense. You grind it up into really fine powders. It's used in quite a lot of different things. I also use it sometimes in like a general like mixing bowl. If I just need to like mix some ingredients together, I'll use it in this as well. So there's a lot of uses for it, and for me it sits in the center of my altar, and it is something which really helps me connect to the spirit of the plant. It's something which also is quite trance-inducing in a way, especially if you're you know, at your altar and you're using it, and the actual rhythm that you can get into when you're grinding can really feel quite trance-like. So it's really really fun tool, and it's something which is essential. I use it pretty much just whenever I'm using herbs, really. So my second witchy thing that I couldn't live without is my cauldron, which again, this is another tool which was passed down to me by my mum. And yeah, currently it has incense, used incense in there. Need to clean it out. But yeah, I use it for all sorts of things. I use the cauldron for lots of things, you know, making a fire, using incense. I use it for incense quite a lot. You know, place a charcoal tablet in there and then just burn some incense. I put candles in there sometimes for candle magic spells. Yeah, you can use it in a lot of different things. It's just a tool to practice fire safety, and what I will have underneath the cauldron on my altar is a cork mat, something to absorb the heat. I use it sometimes for potpourris. Am I pronouncing that right? So just essentially putting like boiling water in there and putting some plant material and some essential oils, and it creates this really lovely aroma. I think it's better when you have it, like, for example, on the stove, where it's actually consistently being heated. Obviously when it's in boiling water and you just place it in the cauldron like that, the heat is gonna obviously disappear quite quickly. It's gonna get cold, so it's not as longer lasting. There are these shabu pots, hot pots. You can get, they're Japanese, and there's one Instagrammer that I've seen use it. I will put a I'll put a picture, I'll put a link below to the Instagram reel I'm thinking about. I can't remember who it is though, but I'll find it later. And she uses a shabu pot, and it looks so lovely, but they're so expensive. That's another thing that kind of acts as a cauldron, and you can use it for different things like that. But anyway, I don't know why I'm sharing that piece of information, just thought it was interesting. In terms of symbolism for these items, there are associated symbolism with these things, but I won't really go too much into it because it's not necessarily symbolism that I incorporate. So for example, with the mortar and pestle, a lot of people associate the actual bowl with feminine energies, and then this with masculine energies. But I don't work with gender binary in my practice. It's not my cup of tea. If it's yours, that's great. But so just know that there is associated symbolism with some of these things. So for example, cauldron is feminine, connects you with feminine energies, but again, I don't work with it, so I'm not really going to go into it. But if you like that, if that's your thing, then yeah, maybe that's something you want to do some research on, and just letting you know it's a thing. So my third witchy item I couldn't live without is my candle plate. Pretty boring candle plate. It's quite small as well. I would like to get a bigger one, but right now it's all that this works for me. It is essential to my craft because I use a lot of candles. One really mundane way is just putting a candle on for your candle spell. If you're using a tarot card in your spell, you can put the tarot card underneath the plate on top, and then candle. And mundanely, it's great for fire safety, so you're not setting your tarot card on fire. Also, can use a candle plate if I've got like a small candle in the middle, and you can like have herbs, sprinkle the herbs around the candle on the candle plate, and that can be symbolic of an intention, depending on I guess what herb you're using as well. Things like that, which you can incorporate using the candle plate. So yeah. So my fourth witchy item I couldn't live without. It's a little bit of a cop-out because it's more of a plural item, and it is jars, which I have a whole bag full. I have this lovely Treadwell's tote bag full of jars. Jars that I've saved from the kitchen. I have a pesto jar, mayo jar, jam jar. I think this was a honey jar. Jars, basically, essential witchy item. Not only do I use jars in spells, like spell jars, you use them for making candles. I use them for making spell oils, for storing incense, for, storing anything, any plant material, any, salt, anything in my witchcraft. Anyone who's familiar with goo pots, it's a sort of dessert thing you can get in the UK. I don't know if you can get them other places, but they come in these glass containers. They don't come with a lid though, the lid is foil, which is annoying, but I use them for tea light holders. And I can paint sigils on the bottom, and then it's just getting really creative, but I use glass jars in my practice a lot. It is essential. And even reusing ones like these, I'll just make them into a new candle, and always reuse your jars. It's essential to my craft. Not much else to say on that one. I use them for everything. They're essential. And yeah. My fifth witchy item I couldn't live without is my candle carver. And this seems a bit like, really, but I do use it quite a lot because I use candle magic quite a lot, and I like to carve things in my candles. So my candle carver is this little boy. It's not anything fantastic. It is just a mahogany obsidian arrowhead. I got it ages ago when I was a kid, and I have repurposed it for candle carving, because I don't use it in any other context anymore. And yeah, it does the job. It really does. I perhaps in the future would invest in a more fine candle carver, like a proper nice one, but at the moment this works. Not gonna do too much reckless spending. I already do that on books. So this works, this does a job. I'll use this to, like I said before, inscribe sigils, symbols, words, depending on the size of the candle, chants, into the candle, into any sort of material which is able to carve into in my craft. And yeah, that's its main job. Not much else to really say. My sixth witchy item I couldn't live without is my cup, or chalice. A lot of people associate the chalice with feminine energies, if that's your thing. For me, it's a great connection to the water element, and in general, the way I use it is mainly in offerings. It's what I've been mainly using it as now. Before, I would perhaps use it more just as a vessel for any spiritual working, needing to hold liquid. But now I'm using it more as an offering sort of bowl, or something to give offerings of water, for example. And yeah, this is something which I handmade in when I went to Japan. When I was there, I did a traditional Japanese pottering class and made this. So it's not perfect, but it is something which obviously has a deep connection to me, so I do love it. And yeah, that's something which I use a lot in my craft. My 7th witchy item I couldn't live without is my tarot deck. And decks. I do have a few, but this is the one I used the most. This is the one I keep on my altar, and it's one that just calls me out all the time. And yeah, so this is the Brady Tarot by Emmy Brady. It is so beautiful. So aside from it just being lovely, ways in which I use a tarot deck are: 1, in spells. In my spells, I wouldn't use this because it is quite a precious deck. I use just my standard Rider-Waite-Smith deck. Yeah, this is a random one, a cheap one that I've had for years, and I use that. Other ways obviously are divination. I'll use tarot if I need some insight after or before I've done a spell. I'll do ritualistic readings at specific points in the year, for example at festivals, at new moons or full moons. If I'm just in a difficult place and I need some insight, I'll do a reading. Yeah, just think of the ways that you would use a tarot deck. That's how I use mine. Also, I guess just sometimes it's nice just to really meditate on a specific tarot card, on a specific meaning. Perhaps if I need to engage my intuition more, I'll go to the High Priestess and just meditate on that. Loads of different ways you can get creative with tarot. That's what I use my deck, and it's essential because I do engage in a lot of introspection, and tarot is a great tool for doing so, so essential. My 8th witchy item I couldn't live without is my Book of Shadows, or grimoire. In my video, How to Start Your Book of Shadows, I outline, for me, there's a difference between grimoire and Book of Shadows. Sometimes I'm sort of thinking, is there really? I still like the term Book of Shadows because to me it seems a lot more of a personalized journal, but a lot of people use grimoire as a term for that as well, and that's, you know, equally valid. Doesn't really bother me. I do use the term grimoires to refer to more textbook based information, because over the years from like 2012 to now, I've made a bunch of these grimoires, I like to call them. Yeah, and they're just full of like more textbook based information, more they're kind of like encyclopedias in a way, so it's not necessarily information that I would personally follow or like traditions that I would specifically follow. So for example, I have like the Sigil of Lucifer here. I made this back in, this doesn't have a day on it, but I made this back in high school, and I'm doing my master's degree now. I made this in like year 8 or something. But it was never meant to be like a personal thing. It was more just kind of like, these are symbols in these pagan, traditions. So I kind of, for me, that's what grimoire is like. A lot of people use grimoire for your personal journal. It doesn't really matter. Maybe to some people it massively matters, but for me, I kind of just think, call it what you want, as long as you're writing, as long as you're doing it, then that's fine. Anyway, that was a massive tangent. My essential item are these journals, basically, is what I mean to say. I'm not going to show what's inside here, but it is essential to me. It is something that I use and go back to frequently as, you know, a reference for my own personal journey, as things if I need to like remember certain recipes, etc. I'll come to here. I've been pretty lazy in terms of handwriting things. I have a separate Google Drive folder full of information and recipes. So I don't just use this basically, I also use a Google Drive folder. And that works for a lot of people and that's totally valid. So the 9th item I couldn't live without is a recent addition to my practice. But it's a blackboard and this is it. It's a fairly big one. Wasn't too expensive. At the moment it's just got this talisman on it. And the ways in which I've used it so far in my practice have been, for example, I may draw a symbol on the blackboard, have it on my altar, have the candle plate on top of the symbol, and then burn a candle down. I would also write chants, prayers, poems. I would write in runic and Younger Thuthark on the blackboard, and I have that on my altar as like a kind of like a devotional thing. I kind of just have whatever I want on there, some symbols which I feel connected to at the time. It is a part of my altar now and it feels really nice and creative. It's a nice creative outlet to have. And yeah, and those are the ways in which I'd use it. It's not, I wouldn't say it's essential to everybody's witchcraft practice. It is a sort of a luxury item, but now that I have it, it feels really lovely and it makes a lot of sense. So yeah, I don't think I'd want to get rid of it basically. So it's essential to me. And my last witchy item I couldn't live without is my incense burner. This is a jumbo incense holder, which I didn't realise. I don't know why, I didn't kind of realise what the jumbo meant. And it meant like incense sticks, which are like jumbo, like huge. So the actual hole, I'm trying not to spill my incense ash everywhere, but the actual hole inside the incense burner is quite big. So I need to stick two, so I'll have like one already in there, and then when I have a new incense stick in there, I'll have two in, so it actually is upright properly. Basically, yeah, I'm making it work, it's fine, but it does the job, it's absolutely great. It is wooden, but you know, I use sticks basically. I have a lot of incense sticks, like a lot, from where I've just collected them over the years. Like I've just collected so many. I have like 20 packs of incense sticks just from like since the ages of 12. I'm using it a lot and yeah, it's essential to my craft. In terms of burning incense, obviously like I said before, you can burn incense, like loose incense on charcoals, and I do that quite a lot. You can see in the background that I have this one as well. This is again my mother's, she gave it to me. I am very fortunate, but yes, I use this a lot as well. And this obviously you'd place a charcoal in there and you can put loose incense over the top. It gets quite hot, so I don't really carry this around, and if I'm cleansing, I would use the cauldron for that, hence why I said the cauldron was an essential tool over that one. But obviously you can't really burn stick incense in cauldrons. Well, I guess you could, but it's much easier in one of these, so I use this one. And you would burn incense in your craft, like I mentioned before, in smoke cleansing. You can burn incense in your spells. So for example, if you're doing a spell for some form of prosperity and you want to burn some prosperity incense whilst you're performing the spell, it's kind of just like extra added ingredient on top of the spell. You know, people just also burn incense because they want to. So there's different ways that you can use it in your craft. And yeah, incense sticks can get quite cheap, so they're found at a lot of new age stores as well, so it's quite an accessible thing to use in your craft. So yeah, those are my 10 witchy items that I couldn't live without. What are yours? Please let me know. Do the same video and tag me in it because I want to see. And yeah, I hope that it was interesting. I hope it was educational enough for you as well. I know that sometimes these kind of videos can seem a bit like me, but and I hope it doesn't come across as that. But it is fun to sort of talk about what you use in your craft and why it's important. So yeah, what do your essential witchy items look like? Let me know, I want to see. And I really hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.